What's up, everybody? Glad you could be sitting with us for another Theological Sidebars conversation. And so today we're going to be talking about fasting. So let's deal with this. We'll look at our passage, Matthew chapter 6, beginning in verse 16. And notice what he says here is, whenever you fast, don't be gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, so their fasting is truly obvious to people. But truly I tell you, they have their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head, wash your face, so that your fasting isn't obvious to others, but your Father who is in secret, to your Father who's in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. All right, so just a couple things we need to think about. I think it's pretty clear when you read this that Jesus is making the case, or at least implying heavily, that for his followers there's going to be a time when we do fast. Go back and look at the passage again. You'll see verse 16, whenever you fast. Look at 17, when you fast. And so that is some of the stuff that we need to keep in mind, is that the implication is heavily that that we will be a people who will fast. And this will be referenced later on when they ask him, how come his disciples aren't fasting right now? And he says, well, when the bridegroom is here, we're not going to do that. But there will come a time. And so when we read this, we should be aware that it should probably be part of the regular Christian experience. Now, here's the thing. It's not in here how often you should fast. It isn't. Jesus is not telling us how much. Now, if you read the Didache, which I've put over here, which is an early Christian document, and it is just tradition that was passed on, but very, very early in church history. Notice what they say here, and I gotta put my glasses back on because I can't read it from here. He says, let not your fastings be with the hypocrites, for they fast on the 2nd and the 5th day of the week, but do ye keep your fast on the 4th and on the preparation day, the 6th day. Okay, so they are interacting, they're interacting with the material that comes from the Sermon on the Mount. And so here they're saying is, don't be like the hypocrites who they were fasting 2 days a week. Now, why they were fasting 2 days a week, I am not sure, but it does seem that this was the regular practice of the Jews. And so what does he say is that, or at least the Didache, it's not a he, it seems to, tradition is that it was the teaching from the apostles, but that's just tradition, right? But it says, no, don't do like what they're doing. Change the days. So there would have been like a Monday, Thursday, and then they're being told to do like a Wednesday, Friday is for your fasting. Now, okay, so that's not in the Bible though. That's just something that's tradition. Here, fast 2 days a week. But we do see that was an early practice. So from early Christians, they would have done 2 days a week. The Jews were doing 2 days a week. But once again, that's not in the text. Their practice, at least Jewish practice, was in the text, but not in the text for us. There's only one day that's commanded in the scripture. Now, there are obviously commands of leaders saying we are going to hold a fast, but there's only one day that was ever commanded for the people of God to fast. So that should also tell you about the significance of fasting, or at least the place it should have, right, is because it's only mandated one time, and so that's going to be Leviticus chapter 16, talking about the Day of Atonement, right? So when the Day of Atonement comes into place, this is the one day a year where the high priest goes behind the veil. The people are told that they are to the words are using like self. They were going to hold back, that they were supposed. Now we translate it as fasting, but that's what the day is. That the people are supposed to is to make sure that they have that they are going to, not just fast, it seemed, but there were other things that they were supposed to do. So it's called self-denial. If you look at Leviticus 16:29, this is the permanent statute for you. In the 7th month and the 7th day, you're to practice self-denial and do no work. So it seems like, okay, at least there might be a case to be made that for the Christian, we should at least do it once a year. I think that'd be good. If you've not even started to at least say once a year, I'm going to do it. And for the Christian, I believe, Good Friday is the fulfillment of, the whole Easter weekend, but Good Friday is the fulfillment of that. I think it's kind of interesting how in church history, you have Lent tie in. There is a fasting period all the way up until Easter, but Good Friday would be a good, I think maybe a good practice to pick your day. But then, like I said, there's no command that we see in the New Testament to do this, but we see them doing it. So Acts 13, if you want to go over to your Bible there, you can look at Acts 13. And so I'll put it here, Acts 13. And it says, at the church at Antioch, there were prophets and teachers, Barnabas and Simeon, who was called Niger, Lucius, Cyrene, Manaen, a close friend of Herod the Tetrarch, and they were friend of us and Saul, as they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. And after they had fasted and prayed, they laid hands on them and sent them out. So, and I just read that to you. There you go. There's the passage right there. Fasting is part of, big decisions to send people out, asking what God's will is going to be. And so it seems like if anything, church leaders, we should try to be, I think, mindful that that's something that we should call our leadership to do in certain occasions, that there might be things that we need to just ask the people to do with us. And maybe we don't do it because people aren't used to it, right? Maybe we don't do it so much because that's not typically something that we're used to. Or maybe you haven't felt comfortable, but you know what? That doesn't matter. We want to. Now, I think here's the deal. This is probably where maybe some might be nervous to do this. It's just simply you don't want to be seen as breaking Matthew 6, right? You don't want to be seen as somebody saying, brothers, we should all fast. And because, you want people to say, well, he's just asking because he wants to be seen as the super spiritual leader of us all, So, and it might be true, but that's not the point. And you shouldn't be doing that either, right? So there is a piece where I think is you kind of, as an individual, you should be thinking about fasting and keeping that as something that you do for you personally, however you want to do that regularly, whether that's regularly yearly, which I think should be a minimum. Just my opinion. We're not under the law anymore, but I think it's a minimum daily, a yearly fasting. But maybe you want to go a little more regular. But I think the other time is I think we as church leaders should be looking and saying we're going to have things in our year that we're going to ask our people, whether it's our people or at least our leadership, to fast for. So I know that during the end of last year, there was another brother and I that there was something going on that both we just felt we should do this together, and so we didn't tell anybody. We kept it silent. I think only our wives knew, and that was it. And nobody needs to know. So I won't tell you who it was. I won't tell you when. Because if you say, well, that must be that time you looked disheveled. Listen, I look disheveled all of the time. Let's just get that out in the open. So there cannot be a general date that you can pick and say he looked more so. That would almost be impossible. Okay. So, but maybe that is it. Look, I'm always putting oil on, so to speak. I will smell good, but the disheveled face thing, I don't do this intentionally. It just happens that way. But I digress. So listen, I do think the leadership of your church, of our church, should be thinking, what are things that we do? We need to seek God in, and we need to put those down. We need to be praying about those. I had a conversation this morning about church culture, and there are things definitely I think that every church deals with as their culture. There's good pieces of culture, there's bad pieces of culture. And we should be praying that our church could continue to look more like what Jesus wants for us. So I think those are things you can pray for too, that God, would you raise up more people like this? God, would you do this? Would you put a fire in the hearts of the people to do things? I think those are pretty big things. I think big moves coming up. You see that in the Old Testament when big things are happening. You got a big event about to take place, or some sort of looming catastrophe, or maybe it's somebody who's ill, that on their deathbed, that kind of thing. Those are all times I think that are significant that maybe you might call leaders to, or at least your group that you belong to. So think about those things. I think we should be. I think I made the comment the other day that for Baptists, we almost do the opposite, right? Somebody's sick, we bring them dinner. Please continue to bring dinner. But we should remember too that if somebody's really hurting, maybe we should also think I'll bring you dinner, but maybe as I bring you dinner, look at my arms. If I bring you dinner, I am going to forego mine in praying for you. That might cut down, though, on our hospitality abilities. If everybody felt crud, if we're going to bring the Pates a lasagna tonight, that means we're not getting tacos. So let's just let them fend for themselves. That's not what I'm talking about. But just find out something that works for you as a reminder of how can you pray. Because remember, the absence of food, or the absence, whether you do a partial, absolute, or a normal fast, and I think you can go look. I think we did an OTXNT about that in a previous episode. But regardless, those should be things that say, okay, that hunger's there, that desires, I'm going to go turn to God for it. So, hey, that's all I got for you right now. I hope this is helpful, and we will talk to you a little bit later. Take care. Bye-bye.